nervous because I'm here now.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell. And in this episode, we're going to discuss the upcoming matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington football team. But before we get into it, please take a second, hit the subscribe button, give us a like. And if you're interested in interacting more with the show, check out our Patreon. But Jimmy, get us started. How's this week 4 matchup looking?
Well, this is going to be an interesting one as far as health. That's kind of where I want to start. Nothing, in insane or really of note for the Ravens. Only that we have some guys that are banged up, which we already know about. Ronnie Stanley limited in practice. I like that Ronnie. He limited in practice Wednesday, did not practice. He hardly ever goes a whole week without practicing though, even while he's working through an injury. So props to him for that. Some vet days off. You got Derek Wolfe and then. Anthony Levine, we can assume it was a vet day off, Brandon Williams, things like that. So nothing of note. On the other side, though, I will say I think they have the two biggest names on the injury list. Terry McLaurin with a thigh bruise or something of that nature, and he was limited in practice on Thursday. I think that's a big deal for them. I think he's their most explosive offensive weapon, and then their most explosive defensive weapon at this point, Chase Young, is out. He's got a groin issue already been ruled out, and who knows how long he'll be out. Shout out to the Redskins though for their two, most potent players being young guys in their first and second year. So that's a good sign for them. But as far as injury goes, both teams relatively healthy, especially the Ravens.
Yeah, really. I even though McLaurin is limited, I think if he gets in another limited practice on Friday, I expect him to go. But it is a thigh injury, and usually when those thigh injuries pop up midweek, it's like a bruise a lot of times, like one of those bad, I'm sure you've had them. I've had them playing basketball where it hurts. It hurts to run on. So even if he is able to play, which I expect him to, he should be a little bit limited by that injury. Now, I'm sure they're going to numb the pain so he can play through it, but he might be a little limited from it. So it could be something that benefits the Ravens. But yeah, I think relatively healthy for the Ravens, not anything of note. The one thing I will say about them also is Dontrell Inman, the receiver who caught 2 touchdowns last week, did not practice on Wednesday with a wrist injury. So that could be another guy that you look at to for the Reds for the football team. It's great. We just did an interview yesterday with Zach. And we didn't mess up once. We said the Washington football team. I was so proud of us. And then look at me go. Anyway.
Jeez Louise.
All right. So I want to get into some of the individual player stats. But before I do, don't you have some team stats you could get into?
Got some team stats here. It's crazy what a week will do. Just to give you an idea for this matchup, offensively, I can't believe I'm saying this. The highest ranked offense in this matchup, as you can assume, is the Ravens at 25th in the league in overall offense. Oh man, we came into the Chiefs game at 12th. I think we were.
Yeah.
So that's pretty rough, but they are still lower than us at 31st in the league. So
now that's based on yards. Is that correct?
Yeah, and then as far as defense goes, our ranking is 18th and theirs is 6th. So, and then just to follow up with that, passing, they're 31st or 30th, as you can imagine, we're 32nd. And then rushing the ball, we're 5th in the league, and then they're 27th. So just to give you an idea of the matchup before we get into the individual players, we need to right that ship this week for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their offensive stats, and nothing really jumps out at you as something that they do particularly well. So yeah, this should be a game where, the Ravens look to get back on track. But let me just get onto some of the more individual stats. Of course, Dwayne Haskins is their quarterback. He has, a 56 completion percent this year with 625 yards passing, 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So certainly not lighting the world on fire. He's just averaging just 6.2 yards per attempt. Not good. So, I mean, those numbers right there should not scare anyone if you're a Ravens fan. But let me get into one player that I think could cause some scare in this game, and that's Antonio Gibson, the running back, who me and Jimmy talked a lot about in the draft process as a guy we liked, kind of a do-it-all type of guy, a guy that can run routes out of the slot, catch the ball. Also can, take the handoffs and be a pretty darn good running back. And I'm not sure if they got him involved in the return game. Let me see. No, they have not
Yeah,
yet.
not a
But
yeah.
kind of surprised there because we talked about his return ability in college was incredible.
Hmm.
But I guess they're trying to keep him healthy for his other position, running back. But yeah, a guy that could really turn it on. He's averaging 4.5 yards per carry in this young season, and he also has 6 catches for just 16 yards. But he's explosive, man. He's fast. He's quick. He can make you miss. And in a game where, as you mentioned, with the injuries to McLaurin and Inman, this is a guy that they could look to feature in their offense, especially if McLaurin can't go at 100% and he's at 80, 85%. I think Gibson could be a target for them as far as a guy that can help move the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about potential concerns, I mean, we'll give our predictions at the end of the show here, but if they're going to do anything to muck up this game, they've got to run the ball effectively and make big plays, right? And so he's proven he can do both of those things.
Yeah.
So that'll definitely be something to keep his eye on, for us to keep our eye on.
Yeah, and then Terry McLaurin, just to give you his stats, he's got 16 catches for 269 yards and 1 touchdown, and that's on 25 targets. And I wanted to point this out to you, Jimmy, because it's clear who gets the targets in Washington.
Yeah.
McLaurin leads the team with 25 targets. Second on the team is tight end Logan Thomas with 24 targets, and he's turned that into 12 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown.
Mm.
And then third on their team in targets is Dontrell Inman, as I mentioned, who we don't know if he is going to play or not, but he has 16 targets, which he's turned into 7 catches for 76 yards, and he did score 2 touchdowns just last week. So if he is able to go, certainly a guy that's moving in the right direction as far as production. So those are the 3 guys, if all 3 are able to go, that you look at, because after those 3, it's a clear drop in targets. I mean, it goes down to Antonio Gibson with just 7. So it's clear those 3 are the outliers, and those 3 are the concern that you have to worry about on offense for the Washington football team. So look for those guys to be getting the attention of the defense.
Well, I tell you what, it's no slight to these guys, but it is nice that none of them scare me like the Kansas City wide receivers do. Now, obviously, we got put in our place when it comes to the Kansas City game, but I feel extremely confident in our secondary's abilities.
Yeah.
Mr. Moneybags himself, of course, Marlon Humphrey, along with Strap 'em Up Peters. I think that
And
we're
he
going
needs
to
to have
be,
a bounce back game, by the way.
yeah, I think
Peters.
we're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think so too. But let me just say this: you put Terry McLaurin on the Chiefs, trouble. Like, so it's not that Terry is a big step down from their
Right.
receiving core. It's the quarterback that is a big step down from Pat, of course.
Yeah, let's talk about him. Do you have some stats on old Haskins, old Mr. I've arrived, even though I haven't arrived?
Well, yeah, I mentioned that he has 56 completion
Oh, yeah.
percentage, just
Right,
4
right.
touchdowns, 3 picks, but
Yeah.
throwing for just 625 yards. So, he's not going to light you up. He did have a pretty good week 1 in the comeback against the Eagles. But he hasn't been spectacular. Let's just call it what it is. He's been a relative disappointment when you consider his draft position. But he's still young. It's still early. He can still turn it around. Of course, now he actually has a legitimate head coach.
Yeah.
So that should help, because you don't see that a lot in Washington.
Right. And the other thing, too, that I think is interesting is that, he was named captain of the team, one of the captains, young guy. And I don't think Ron Rivera just hands those things out to the quarterback just because he's the quarterback.
Right.
So that was relatively surprising to me. Zach, as we mentioned from the Washington Wire, mentioned that his leadership skills have improved this year. So hopefully, well, to a certain extent, hopefully they continue to rally troops. Obviously, we don't want them to do any of that this week, and we just want to roll through them.
Yes.
But all right, well, let's get to, you talked about the guys we're going to focus on. I mean, the way that I see it is let's review do you have some of our player stats at this point up in front of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So
All right, let's get to it.
You want to talk about the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah.
I guess we'll start with the guy who leads the ship, which is Lamar Jackson, who has on this early season 576 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, still 0 picks, with a 68.8 completion percentage, averaging 7.5 yards per attempt. So definitely not from a yard standpoint where we would expect him to be, but everywhere else he's doing, pretty much as expected. Maybe he thought he'd have a few more touchdowns than just 5 through 3 weeks, but keeping the interceptions at 0, that's a big thing for him and our team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty happy with that, but definitely need to see some more yardage. I mean, 7.5 yards per attempt is much lower than he was last season. Last season we hit a lot of big plays. Still searching for those big plays this year, and I'd like to see. We hyped up Hollywood Brown before this season. We talked about him going over 1,000. We talked about him getting close to 70 catches, 80 catches. He
Mhm.
has not been as big of a factor as we were expecting him to be before the season started. Right now, he does lead our team with 18 targets, but he has just 12 catches for 156 yards and has yet to find the end zone. So I want to see Marquise Brown get himself more involved, and I want to see Greg Roman make an effort to do so. I want to see him. I know that he's commanding the attention of the defense, but there's so many, so is Terry McLaurin. So is, so
Right.
just
Welcome to the
because
NFL.
exactly, that's what happens. You got to find a way to
Yeah.
get your best player the ball. And I want to see him get the ball in some space for once. My goodness, can we
Yeah.
see him catch a screen or something?
Yeah, absolutely. The other one, I don't have all the stats in front of me, but I know that Mark Andrews, I think, only has 3 catches in the last 2 games. It's
Hmm.
another guy we want to get going in this game as well. And yeah, with Lamar, I thought he'd maybe have I don't think he has a rushing touchdown at this point yet.
No,
And so I thought by now he'd have squeaked one in,
yeah.
and so I want to see a little bit more dynamic run heavy football, but we'll get into that here in a second. Are there any other players on the Ravens team that you are highlighting as points of emphasis or players that we really want to see a bounce back game? Now this is funny because I feel like at this point it's the whole team except for Calais Campbell, who I thought had an exceptional game against Kansas City.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that you're looking to make a bounce back game?
Well, I don't know about bounce back, but I want to see a keep going of Mr. Gus the Bus Edwards. He's averaging
Yes.
7.2 yards a carry this season. And now he just has 18 carries, but that's the problem. I want to
Yeah.
see more Gus, and I want to see him early on. You mentioned yesterday that Roman called Gus our closer. Well, can he be the opener? Can he be the mid and can he be the closer? Because right now he has been by far our most effective back. And let's just establish him early and get a lead early instead of trying to go to the air and to set up the pass. I mean, I'm sorry, to set up the run. Let's flip it. Okay? Let's let the run set up the pass for once this year. And
Okay.
let's see Gus running early instead of waiting until the second half to deploy what has been our best offensive weapon so far.
You know what I felt like yesterday when I heard that press conference? Remember in and Out, the movie, when the angry emotion, he like, "Bam!" He like turns on. I'm
Yeah.
like driving and I hear this and my flame
Steam
started
shoots
coming
out of
out of
your
my
ears.
car. Yeah, it was like, dude. So I absolutely agree with you there. I'm glad you brought that up because I just want to say something about that. If we do not have success this year, it will be because of Greg's Roman's inability or reluctancy to depend on the run game heavily, to have the courage of his conviction to stick to what we do, and to not get cute. This is the thing that I think about when I think of Gus. In Lamar's first 7 games, they were a flash in a pan, not just Lamar, but also him. We don't need to be, but back then, Lamar couldn't make the throws that he can make today,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that doesn't mean that just because he couldn't make the throws, that the offense obviously wasn't effective. It was effective. It had its ceiling. We saw that in the Chargers game, the first game in playoffs. But Lamar did things that can now overcome those. He's improved beyond that. I believe if he's put in that situation again, we come out on top. But my point is that if you remember the first Chargers game, the balance that we struck when we made the big plays in the air
Mm-hmm.
and we ran the football, right? Where is that? Right? Because Lamar is so much better than he was back then. Our skill positions are so much better than we were back then. The only difference to me is the lack of reliance on running the football. You know what I mean? It's like you can't you rob Peter to pay Paul. You can't do both at the same time when absolutely you can. So I was frustrated to hear that from Roman. I don't know what it is about him and Gus, if they don't like each other or he doesn't like Gus, or I don't know, but why can't you just openly praise the guy?
Yeah.
Like just give him some pub, man. Like you're absolutely right. And I would be frustrated. I just can't take it. And I'm obviously a Gus guy, but I'm just gonna get through it here. That's my key to the game. Just like you said, we need to run early, we need to run often, we need to
Mm-hmm.
establish the tone, we need to wear them out, and we need to identify like a proportion of carries. I don't like this like committee approach with three backs. I'm not liking it right now because I feel like all three of them in particular, they need some time to get going, get the legs churning, get rolling.
Mhm.
Maybe Dobbins, he's more that lightning in a bottle, big play guy. But and this is the last thing I'll say before we get blown up about this. I don't know. And Glenn, I'm piggybacking off a statement you made to me. I don't know if Gus is individually the best, most talented back that we have, but he seems to be the absolute clear cut best fit for the
Mhm.
type of offense that we want to run. So look, sometimes you got to roll with what's working the best, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, and
that's all I want to say about that.
I think the probably the tough part for the Ravens is that they've invested so much money in Mark Ingram, and also he's such a fantastic leader and such a magnetic personality. It's just he's just so I think that kind of pulls them towards wanting to get him in the game. And then J.K. Dobbins, they trade away Hurst to get the draft pick. They use it on Dobbins. So I think that's the only thing. But I really I think we've talked about this many times. We don't understand the lack of desire to use Gus. We don't understand it, but hopefully this game they use him a little earlier because he's just been incredible. So
Well, and this is the other thing. If I can just touch this one more time, to me, I would even argue that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who it is, whoever's being effective. I don't have an actual preference, but Gus is just being effective. But the thing is that, and first of all, Ravens media, stop tippy toeing around Greg Roman. Ask him the direct questions. Like, what is it? Like,
yeah,
I don't understand the niceties. Like, just be real.
we
Anyway,
need to get it. We need to get in there. We
that's
need
what
to
I'm
get in
saying. Get
there,
us a
man.
media pass so I can take him to task. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Tell me one way that it makes sense. But the thing that I was going to say is that if it's Mark, fine, but give him enough carries to get going. It's not that I don't have confidence in Mark. I don't think any of them are getting enough to really like get going. Do you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
So that's my issue number one. Issue number two is Gus. My issue number one is that none of them, whoever it is, give them the rock over and over and over again. I don't know. And I realize people are saying we were down and this, that, and the other. Even in the games that we weren't,
Yeah, but you know what? We weren't down in
we
the
were in
first half.
striking distance.
Yeah, we weren't down enough in
Absolutely.
the first half when they're coming out five wide and
Yeah.
empty backfield for three straight plays and an incomplete punt. No, I heard that in the Titans playoff game, and I'll give you that game got out of hand and they missed a lot of 4th and 1 and 3rd-and-1 opportunities. But this game, no, they got away from it too early and tried to attack them through the air. And I agree with you. I think they need
Yeah.
to
On
switch
Good
it
Morning
around.
Football, they said the Ravens have a problem with keeping up with the Joneses when they play the Chiefs.
They do, and it's so
Yeah.
frustrating because we like Greg Roman here. We were happy that he ended up staying here and didn't find a head coaching job. But what worries me is that every stop you look at, as his offense evolves, he gets fired. I mean,
He
he
gets
was with
worse and worse. It's
yeah,
weird, right?
it's very weird. It's like he comes in with San Fran, he's great, and then over the years the numbers drop every year, and then he gets fired. He goes to Buffalo. He has a great year, Tyrod's best year, right? And then he gets fired. So it's just I worry that as his offense evolves, it gets worse, and that's exactly what we don't want to see here in
Look,
Baltimore.
it's like this, man. You don't want the tragic of the Super Bowl guac, right? Guacamole is great because it's simple.
Yeah,
It's really simple to make. But you start adding in this, you start adding in that. By the end of it, you got 12 ingredients in, and your guac tastes like the bottom of a lawnmower. You know what I mean? Like guacamole is simple
yes.
and perfect as it is. Just leave it alone. Like our offense can be simple and innovative and exciting and effective all at the same time. It doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be a mad scientist tinkering so much, right?
Yeah, I agree. But all right,
Yeah.
let's move to the other
Sorry.
side of the ball
Sorry.
because
Appreciate the time though.
yeah, we got fired up. All right, so another thing that we've been talking about that has to improve, and it certainly showed itself in the Chiefs game was the pass rush. We did a
Yes.
whole show. If you're interested, check it out. Whether or not we believe the Ravens need to bring in some outside help to help with that because it didn't look great against the Chiefs. But let me highlight a couple players who are playing well. Tyus Bowser, he has 2 sacks on the season, and he came close to getting another one. And
Mm-hmm.
but Pat Mahomes just made phenomenal play after phenomenal play, and he got out of it. But he does have 2 sacks. He's got 14 total tackles. So
Totally
actually,
outplaying Judon this year.
Yeah, I mean, Judon is virtually non-existent. Let's see. I have uh, one tackle for loss on the season for Judon, and then a couple of assisted tackles and a couple solos. I mean, that's absolutely when you talk about making 16 million, he's making $1 million per game, Jimmy. And what is he giving you? He's not giving you a whole lot more than me and you were giving the Ravens.
Right. Think about this. The nose tackle, you said this, the nose tackle on the Ravens is registering more stats than you.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. What are you doing?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. That's all
his job is to
come on.
his job is to literally not register stats and just take up offensive linemen. You just occupy space, and he's still registering more stats than you.
I mean, Jihad Ward has been far better than Matt Judon this year. That's a
Yeah.
problem. That's a
Uh,
huge, huge problem. And you mentioned Brandon Williams, but it's not just him. I mean, if I was to tell you that Derek Wolf would have better numbers than him, you'd be pretty surprised, wouldn't you? I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah, the only one is Jalen Ferguson, who's been an absolute disappointment.
oh my goodness. But I mean,
Yeah.
he's not his expectations weren't
Judon
there
was.
where
Yeah.
Judon was. I mean, Judon every year has improved himself by at least 3 sacks, right? So we expected him to hit the double digit mark. He had 9 last year. We expect him to at least get to double digits. Well, he hasn't even come close. I mean, if anything, he's had 2 horrible penalties. The first of which was just disgusting, but the second, people are saying he timed the snap. To me, he was early. I mean, he was a split second early. It wasn't a lot, but he was a split
Right.
second early. I thought Bowser was actually perfect opposite him, and it was just a little bit behind him, and would have gotten the sack as well. So, yeah, I want to see Judon get your head out of the sand. I want to hear your number called. I want to see something positive and not a flag being thrown at you.
Yeah, if I can mention one other thing here as far as wanting to get back in rhythm on the defensive side of the ball, if I'm not mistaken, Patrick Queen got yanked in that Kansas City game. And so we want to see that guy get his confidence back, get his swag back. I think that as a rookie, it's hard not to. I was thinking about this going into that Kansas City game. He's done nothing but win. His only experience, he won at LSU. His only experience in the NFL has so far in his short career has been winning and succeeding, and everything coming to him as it comes along, it's in his favor. And so I think it was good for him to face that early, to re-establish the fact that this is the pros, this is the NFL. Adversity happens. Not that it doesn't in college, but the disparity is not the same, right, between roster and roster.
Right.
And so, look, things happen. So I'm looking for him to get back on the horse as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. And I think another guy had a rough game last week was Marcus Peters. He got caught peeking in the backfield. He tried to jump a route and paid the ultimate price. And I think Deshaun Elliott ended up getting a lot of blame for that. But as more people have pointed out on social media and other places, it was Peters' responsibility, and he did what we expect from him to do in a lot of ways. Is he tried to make a big play, tried to flip the field and get a turnover, and it cost him. So I want to see Peters bounce back, and we saw the week before make a phenomenal interception. So I want to see him get back to playing well and mistake free, like we saw really the first however many games with Peters. We didn't really see him make that mistake. So last week was a disappointment, but I think they'll both bounce back. And then Marlon Humphrey, look for him to really show out. I think that when Ravens players get extended, they look to get them involved early to kind of show like, look, this is why. So look for Marlon to do some blitzing out of the slot. He's a great blitzer. I mean, he's lightning fast, physical. He'll shed a blocker if you're going to try and block him with a running back. I like Marlon as a guy that I think will make a play. He'll either get a turnover or he's going to get a sack this week.
All right, well, we're going to talk about our big game predictions.
Yes, I guess I just spoiled mine.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Marcus Peters was mine last week on defense. Oh gosh. Oh, I know that.
Mine was Bowser, and I was this close. He had a hold of him. He had him.
I was thinking about that the whole game. I'm like, man, he called this one. Oh my gosh. All right, so we've identified the players on both sides of the ball, that we should look out for, and of course on the Ravens that we want to bounce back. I think it's time to get into our keys to victory here, Glenn.
Okay. Well, why don't you get us started then? What do you want to start? Offense, defense?
Yeah, offense is where we'll go. As I mentioned, our number one key to victory is run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. If I can say it one more time, run the ball.
Okay.
All right. Don't get cute. I don't want to see any halfback screens after we intercept the football and we got the ball and we got some momentum. I don't want to see halfback screens get blown up for a loss of 2 yards. All right, just hand the ball off and fall forward, dang it. Like,
But it
geez
was
Louis.
that looked really bad too because we see the Chiefs putting on an absolute screen clinic, and then we try and match him with a screen, and Ingram gets
Well, what did you
absolutely
think? This is,
destroyed.
you're absolutely right. So, what did they think was going to happen? Andy Reid throws the most intricate screens at these guys on defense every single day. What do you think they weren't going to sniff it out? If they can sniff
Yeah,
Andy out in practice, you don't think they were going to do that to you, Greg Roman? Anyway,
yeah,
but yeah. So that's my number one. My second one is get Lamar's confidence back. Not saying that he's not confident, but I do believe that at this point in his career, his psyche is a little bit fragile.
yeah. I mean, he
He
called
doesn't
the
have a lot
Chiefs
of
their kryptonite.
right. He doesn't have a lot of runway. Last thing on offense. So if I have three of them, the last one is Hollywood Brown. You mentioned it. He was my offensive and defensive breakout players last week. Did
Mm,
not go well for me.
mm-mm.
So anyway, get him involved early.
Yeah,
So those are my three.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard to go elsewhere than your three. I think you pointed out some big stuff. I think Lamar Jackson definitely needs to get his confidence back, but the run game needs to be established early, and you need to run to set up the pass. I think that's the method that works here in Baltimore, and I know that they've used the pass to set up the run in other games, and it's worked to great success. But I don't want to give a team like this any hope to win this game. You don't want them sticking them around. You don't want them keeping it close because look, this is still NFL football. Any given Sunday, they can still pull off the upset. And I think last time they came and played in Baltimore, I was at that game, and they lost. The Ravens lost. So even though they are heavy favorites this week, this is not a guarantee. This is still the pros, and maybe it's a copycat league. So maybe look for the Redskins to come in and employ the same type of defense, but with a better front. I mean, we talked about their front five, their front seven has 5 first-round picks in it. And even if Chase Young doesn't go, they got Kerrigan, they got Sweat, they got Payne, and they got Jonathan Allen.
Who's
So
an animal. I
yeah,
mean,
I
Jonathan
mean,
Allen is insane.
yeah. So I think that my offensive key, if I just had to boil it down to just one, I'm gonna say win in the trenches, man. You gotta Tyson always said, you can have a plan until somebody punches you in the mouth, and I think that.
Can you do it in the Tyson voice?
Oh man. And oh shit. I'm about to knock everything over. But no, so I would say control the trenches with your offensive line. Don't let these guys wreck the interior and shut down the run game because, man, if they do, they're going to pin their ears back and they're going to start coming after Lamar. And I hope it doesn't start looking like last week. I don't know if they have the secondary to match up, but yeah. So I would say control the trenches on offense. That's going to be my key. And as far as the defensive side, man, if you can, I don't know how that if you make them one dimensional and you take away their run game, I don't see how they can beat you with just Haskins. Because we mentioned how McLaurin's banged up. I expect him to be getting a heavy dose of Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey. So I consider him to be relatively nullified. So I think stop the run, limit the big plays to Antonio Gibson, and I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I agree with you on the defensive keys as well. I think if you can add one other thing there is what you kind of mentioned to it, and not keeping them around. Don't leave them any window of opportunity. Right, get in and get out. Yeah. I really can't add too much there as far as defense goes. I think that if we go in there, like, this is funny. Like, if you're a coach, you're thinking, how can I spruce up the fact that if we go in there, play our game, we're gonna win? Like, that's.
Well, I think that they probably got a lot of motivation from last week. I mean, I think if they would have,
I know we did.
yeah, if they would have lost. No, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the Ravens. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. No, I'm saying I
Yeah,
know that we got motivation, so they must have a lot.
yeah. I don't think there's any chance of a trap game. If they would have won last week, and especially if they would have won handily, then you start worrying about maybe a trap game. But this game, I expect the Ravens to come out pissed off, wanting to prove something. I mean, they watched the TV, they watched the Sports Center, and when we were getting dogged, man, we got flat out embarrassed. And then the coaching staff, man, they need a bounce back, Jimmy. I mean, I think they need a bounce back more than the players because Andy Reid came into the bank. He met John Harbaugh at midfield. He pulled his pants down. He spanked his bare ass in front of everyone on national TV. So
Yep.
they need to bounce back. We need to see a bounce back from the Wink, who got absolutely pants. But it's hard to blame Wink because holy crap, that offensive scheme and that offensive game plan was incredible. But yeah, coaching staff, bounce back, man. Bounce back.
Absolutely. Don't fall into the keeping up with the Joneses trap. For the rest of the season, learn your lesson. Look, go back and watch Remember the Titans if you haven't seen it before. In that state championship game, I'm talking to the coaches right now. The play, like you're talking about, the defenders come out like it's like watching Monday Night Football out there when they start spreading them out, and calling audibles and things. They didn't try and match what they did. They stuck to their 6 plays like Novocaine. Give it time, works every time.
Every time. Yep.
So look, man, just give 35 the ball. Let Lamar do his thing. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that we should go in there, and as long as we stick to the game plan, we should be all right. So let's get into our breakout offensive defensive players of the game and then our predictions. So if it's all right with you, Glenn, I'm going to go first on this one, and I'm going to start with my offensive breakout player, big prediction. I'm going with my boy, Gus Edwards. I think he's getting, which doesn't sound like a lot, I think he's getting 15 carries. I think he's going to flirt with a hundy.
Okay.
And I think he's getting a touchdown, which right now in our offense would be a lot based on the fact that we have the 3 backs. Fair?
Yeah. Well, 15 carries would be a lot. He only has 18 on the season. So,
yeah, I think he's getting 50. I think they're going to give him the rock. I think John grabbed Greg Roman's little ear, pulled him over, the scariest garden gnome in the history of the planet, and said, look, give him the ball. Anyway, that's my offensive. Who's yours?
I think a guy who needs to really bounce back, and I'm surprised his name hasn't come up till now, is Mark Andrews. I mean, how many drops did he have against the Chiefs? It was hard to watch. It was frustrating to watch. You mentioned he had 6 catches in week 1. He's had 3 since then, and a lot more than 3 drops since then, including a touchdown that was pretty big last week against the Chiefs. I looked for Mark Andrews to bounce back, if nothing else, because of confidence. They need Mark Andrews. We mentioned before that he's their only red zone threat through the air. So
not anymore. We got Nick Boyle now, baby. No,
yeah, it's true. No, I mean, look, he made an incredible strong catch. But yeah, you're right. Andrews would have typically been in that role. Now, whether I don't know if maybe Boyle was in that role because Andrews was struggling that game, or if it was just deception and they thought they could sneak Boyle by him. But yeah, I think Andrews needs to bounce back. If just for confidence, they need him to feel confident in those situations, or he's not going to be able to make plays. And really, if he's not our red zone threat through there, who the heck is? I mean, you said Boyle, but I think you were half joking.
Yeah,
you don't want to consistently go to Boyle in the air, through the air. So yeah, I want Andrews to bounce back, and I'm just going to jump right into my defensive guy. And I mentioned him earlier. It's going to be Humphrey. I think they look to spotlight him as a somebody who they just signed to a long-term deal. They want to make it look real nice. So I think they're going to be blitzing him. And also it never hurts getting Humphrey because he's always around the ball. He plays with such passion, such intensity that the chances are he's going to get his hands on the ball or be around the ball somehow. So that's my guy.
Yep. So I can't believe I'm about to say this, but my defensive player is going to be Matt Judon.
No. Okay. I hope you're right.
I think he's going to get a 2-piece.
He needs it.
He's going to roll up to Chick-fil-A and ask for the 2-piece.
2-piece.
Okay. All right. Don't they only have a 3 and a 5?
No, they have a 8 and a 12.
No, but the actual, not the nuggets, but like the strips.
Oh yeah, the strips.
But you can get a 2.
Nuggets. Can you get a 2?
You have to ask for it. I only know that because my mom, she's like, they do that for me here. She gets like the 2-piece.
All right, she's fancy.
But yeah, I think he's gonna roll in there and get 2 sacks and bounce back for the sake of our pass rush. We need something. You're talking about people hearing the news. Oh, you better believe he's hearing it too.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone's trashing him.
Yeah, he's got to be out there to prove himself. So I'm taking Judon. Now I'm going to get into my game score prediction here, and I think you're going to like this one. But one other note to keep your eye on, I think that Kerrigan is auditioning for his future team. I really am feeling good about that fit.
Okay.
When and go back and watch that episode with Washington Wire managing editor Zach Neal. That was a really awesome interview. But one of the things he said, he was like, he's 31 years old or so. Only about and his contract isn't great, like $11.5 million or something. I'm thinking in my head, 31 years old, 11. That sounds great to us compared to what
Yeah.
we're looking at on the free, on the open market. You're talking about 37 and 34-year-olds.
And they got the room under the cap to bring in a guy like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So something to keep in mind, keep your eye on. I think that there's a potential for that there. But my score, are you ready for this, Glenn?
I'm ready.
We're ringing a 50 piece, 50 points on the Redskins. All right, 50. All right, you ready for their score?
Yeah.
14.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to take our foot off the gas for a second. I think that Gus is going to do really well, and that could limit our possessions based on the fact that, our drives are going to be slow. But I think there are going to be a lot of big plays. I think count on JK. He led our team in receptions in the last game with 4. He was 4 for 4 and had 40 yards almost catching. I think he's going to get a lot more involved in the passing game. I think Hollywood's going to have some big plays. I think Mark's going to have some big plays. 50 points. I don't think they're going to let up for a second. Dog on a bone, pissed as all get out.
Wow. Well, I certainly hope you're right about that 50 piece. Now, about that 14.
Sound crazy right now, but I don't even care.
Now, I mean, I think the only reason it sounds like it, because you mentioned that we hope that they establish the run. So if they do establish the run, obviously you limit possessions and it's tough to get to 50. They'd have to get a defensive score, I'm assuming, to get to 50, which
maybe a couple of them, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. And Haskins will throw it to the other team on occasion. My score is 31-13. And really, I think I have more of a problem with your 14 than I do your 50. And let me say why. I don't know how they get 2 touchdowns. I don't see it. I see them getting 1 and then a couple of field goals, and then they're out of there because they don't have a power running game. They don't. I don't know how they run. I
think it's so funny that the bone you have to pick is not with the 50 points, with the 14.
If they score 14, we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Well, I guess not necessarily 14, but if they score 2 touchdowns, like if they get in the end zone twice.
Yeah, I'm not happy. I'm not going to be
like
happy.
if they go down and they kick 5 field goals, whatever.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to see them getting in the end zone twice. Not with that lack of star power that they have. We talked about McLaurin's injury. He's not even 100%. Yeah, I don't want to see it. So I go 31-13 in a relative blowout. And
I think 50 would be a franchise record. That's what I'm going for here.
Franchise record, what, points?
No,
remember we put up 55
49
last year.
Oh, we did? I thought it was 49.
I think we won 55-10 against
Miami.
I think it was Miami.
I think that
check out the Miami game, and then also the Rams game was pretty out of hand pretty quick too. So, and I know the Texans game, I think.
59. See, I thought it was 49. My bad. Yeah, 59-10. Oh, so 50. That's easy work. 50
it's
points.
Easy money. I mean, but of course, in that game, if you remember, a lot of long passes through the air and quick scores. So we have to get some of those.
Yeah, so it'll be an interesting one. Make sure you guys let us know what your score is going to be. Give us your bold predictions on breakout players as far as defense and offense. At this point, it's kind of a bounce back player thing because we all got whooped, like Glenn mentioned, by Andy Reid. He had one of those paddles that just said like Bubba on it,
Oh, yeah.
and just whipped it out and gave it to everyone. But let us know what you guys think. Make sure to leave a comment. Make sure to subscribe. And then as Glenn mentioned at the beginning, if you're interested in interacting more with the show, we're going to be putting out a video dedicated to answering our Patreon's questions in the following week. If you want an opportunity to hop on that, go ahead and hit the link and check out our Patreon options. And we will talk to you guys soon.
See you.